Hello, everybody. This is Charizard X coming to y'all live again for another Pokemon XY&Z episode discussion over episode 14. And with me today, I have Espeon. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello.
And we also have Noivern over here.
Hey,
And today we'll be talking about the Team Rocket focus episode that went along with Team Flare. So let's jump on right into it. So, at the very beginning, at the very start of this episode, we had Ash just flopping down on the grass, consumed way too much, and we got the fat Ash along with the fat Pikachu and along with the fat rolling Dedenne. A little good comedy to kind of start off the episode though, but then we just had the X, Y, and Z game just all chilling, hanging around and about. And we had Bonnie over there with Poonie-chan, and she's just over there just basically just enjoying looking at it and just being around it and everything. It was just a nice little way to start off the episode before we had all the major action behind it. What do y'all two think about that?
I think it was a good start. Like last week, they just kind of threw us straight into the action, and this time it was just calm and peaceful. And Bonnie was just being adorable, singing the little Poonie-chan song throughout the episode. The Poonie-chan. Squishy.
And you, Noivern?
yeah, this is completely different from last week's where it was really when it was really just meant all action throughout the whole episode. Well, this one was really you knew it was gonna be action at the end. It was like a good beginning, kind of set up everything to let people know that it isn't just all about action and battles. All I have to say is the fact that Bonnie is too motherly to Poonie-chan.
Well, yeah, we had all of that information, or we had all of that action to begin with, the calm before the storm. And then immediately after that, then we had Team Rocket talking to Giovanni. We
Giovanni.
had him talking to Giovanni on through their
It
through
was
their
their
communicator.
yeah,
Through their
video
communicator.
call.
Dice
Yeah.
of power.
And then this is when things started getting interesting. So first they were just regularly talking to him, giving the status update of what all they've been doing in college. And then they mentioned about Poonie-chan. And then they bring up an image up on it. And then and then we had Giovanni react to it and basically say some things about him and pretty much telling them, all right, get your hands up on it. And the way how Persian kind of perked its way up, it was first time we saw that thing animated in a long time. It was good to see that though. But then they end it, and then you get the first little glimpse of that new Team Rocket theme song. Whenever they just all acting about and saying, "Wow, if we bring this Poonie-chan to the boss, yada yada yada, we're gonna get all of this glam and fortune and all of this stuff." And they take off in their hot air balloon, and then they just rush up on out of there, and then that's it. Then this is when the stuff really starts to heat up. Then we have Poonie-chan over there with Bonnie, and then Poonie-chan, well, Bonnie was just singing that song and everything. And then whenever that happens, we had the Poonie-chans both talking to each other. So they were trying to communicate. And the other Poonie-chans basically saying, hey, come in, what's wrong? And then we moved straight into the action, right when the blue Poonie-chan was getting attacked by the other two Team Flare people, the one with the orange hair and the one with the blue hair. And they just go straight into that attack scene. All right, what did you think about that, Espeon?
Well, jumping back to the part with Giovanni, the way that you mentioned with Persian perking up and Giovanni's reaction, I think he may actually know something about Zygarde or Poonie-chan in general. It may not just be something Team Flare knows. Because obviously if Giovanni and Persian both reacted, that means they know something. So there's probably something more than Team Flare wants than simply Zygarde, something that we don't know that may be revealed in a future episode or
A good reason. All right, what do you have to think, Noivern?
Yeah, about when they talked to Giovanni and the way how they acted, it seemed like either they knew Team Flare or they knew something about Pony-Chan or the Zygarde parts that like literally that Team Flare or even the writers don't want to say, because maybe we're going to learn it out later on.
Yeah, and just the way how Lysandre was just looking at that Pony-Chan, I'm like, all right, there's a lot of different things that Team Flare has available and has available resources to, but I'll dig into that whenever we get towards the end of this discussion and talk about future Team Flare stuff. But anyway, so we had Pony-Chan trapped up in the corner. It could do nothing else. And then it's seen that it's in danger and they have to do something real quick. It decides then the power of it pulls in all those cells together, and then boom, we get the Zygarde 10% form, dog form, and we're like, oh goodness, here we go. And this blue Pony-Chan, I just like to call him Bloony-Chan. So this Bloony-Chan over here, he does not play around, and I feel like his power is almost way off the charts compared to the regular Pony-Chan that we all know about. It starts jumping from wall to wall and annihilates every single Pokemon. And the way how it just like ricochets off that wall and then just smashes into Druddigon like that, I was like, man, that animation looks so good and so crisp and everything. So yeah, we had all of that big battle scene, and then I'm pretty sure it used the move Land's Wrath or something like that to that degree, and basically ended the battle, and then it just ran off. And then we had it basically run into Team Rocket and it's just out cold and all of that stuff. So then Team Rocket comes in, and then we get to a little good moment of comedy whenever the moment they're like, oh man, this is a blue Pony-Chan instead of the regular one. And then out of nowhere, they just get struck by an ice beam. And then they're just like, what? And then Team Flare shows up and they bust out of the ice, and then they're like, oh dear, here we go. So what do y'all two think about that?
I sort of like how quickly Team Rocket broke out. Like, they're just used to taking Pokemon attacks from Ash and the gang. And just the way Blue Pony-Chan acts, the Blue Zygarde form, like you said, he seems stronger, but I think he also seems like more wary of humans in general. Like, as we see, Pony-Chan decide to stay with Bonnie, but throughout the episode, regular Pony-Chan decided to stay with Bonnie, but the blue Pony-Chan, like, there's even a part where he attacked Team Rocket later on in the episode, along with Team Flare, where they both got hit with the Land's Wrath, even though Team Rocket had been protecting them.
Pretty solid. And then you, Noivern?
You know, like you knew since like I don't know, like episode 11 or 12, like the one that started out in this year 2016, that you knew Z2 or the blue one, or it was like when he was talking to Pony-Chan that he hates humans and was trying to get Pony-Chan to become as like him or separate themselves away from humans because like he doesn't really trust them. And you kind of sense that when, by the way, how he was like just talking to Pony-Chan during the talks, and also when Team Rocket found him, he was like, yeah, I don't know if I should trust him or not. And he's like questioning all of his actions. And so it was like, and then when Team Rocket really found them, they had that little comedic moment, like, but they were like, we found him. We can just take him to Giovanni, and we get all this money and gold and riches and power. And then they're like, wait a second, that's not the Pony-Chan that we know. Its chest is blue. There must be a second one. And then basically that's when they're like, they question everything what they've been doing about Pony-Chan.
So yeah, we had all of that scene right there, and then basically Team Rocket defend against it, and they protect it and everything, and then they fight right there. Oh, but before the fight, you actually had the original Team Rocket song, which that was a good addition right there. Didn't want to run the new one too much in the ground before the highlights of their moments in the episode. So it was just nice to hear that again. They get away, they run away, and then Team Flare catches back up to it again, and essentially right when they thought that they were good from the moment of the clearing and whatnot. Then you had Jesse get struck by an ice beam again. Nice little comedy moment right there. Just her hand and all. And then you had Team Flare show back up again. I mean, this is when things get real good. Then Team Rocket, they go all out and they start attacking Team Flare. And this is when you hear the first legit long part of the new Team Rocket motto. And I just gotta say, the music sounds real good to me. It has a nice little catchy beat. I finally got my hands on the full recording, and I've been listening to it on and off throughout the day since that episode aired. So yeah, so what do y'all two think about that moment?
I gotta feel bad for Team Rocket because they just couldn't catch a break every time they got away. Team Flare. Got away. Team Flare. It's just sort of like, they do want to take Poonie-chan for themselves, the blue Poonie-chan, but they're still trying to protect it from Team Flare, which is obviously the much bigger threat than the Team Rocket that we know. So I just kind of felt bad for them throughout the episode. Like, there's the part where they jumped in front of the ray that they were
Yeah, the
shooting
gum
at.
ray or something like that.
Yeah, and even then, the blue Poonie-chan didn't really seem to trust them, even though they were like taking attack after attack for him.
And it's also nice just to see that kind of contrast between our regular Poonie-chan and then that Bloonie-chan over there. Just two different personalities, and that might also go into play whenever you saw in the opening how, yeah, Bonnie holding the Poonie-chan we know, and then the other Poonie-chan that's actually Zygarde 50% on the team player side. So it'll just be interesting to see how all that works out, though. But Noivern, what do you think about this scene in the episode?
That thing was kind of some point part of just comedic, and at the same time, just really their part of the episode because about their feelings. Because the fact that you can tell that they just basically they just recover from that stun ray, and then they see that Poonie-chan is like so weak that he can't even function. So it was like that kind of moment. Then when James let it get the sun to get back to normal, then right when everything seems normal, they're ready to move on. Team Flare showed up, and it wasn't at the point where they were ready to like let it go free, but it was at the point where they were like ready to capture it. And when they got frozen, when she got frozen in her hand, and then they were just, it was just like a simple, just confrontation between the two, and you just knew that Team Flare had the edge on Team Rocket at that point.
So after that scene, then we had the big major showdown. It was trapped in corner again after it blew away Team Rocket and their Pokemon, and it looked like Poonie-chan was down for the count. And we get to see the process of it going all out again, and this time it went beyond 10% for the first time shown in this series, and we finally get to see the 50% form in action yet once again since the very first episode when it just did it like a Lance rapping and that was it. But this time we got a whole lot more in store for us this time. So it goes all out. The first thing it uses is a Dragon Pulse, and if you look at that Dragon Pulse real closely, you can actually see that it has three heads shown in that Dragon Pulse animation. Now, usually you had Gudra or you had Sceptile over there using Dragon Pulse. They only have one head. And I'm like, man, if this Zygarde has three heads popping out of a Dragon Pulse and this is only the 50% form, I'm like, man, what in the world's going to happen when it goes 100% form and uses this move? I don't know how many heads there's going to be. And shoot, man, that move is going to be so powerful. It's going to almost seem like it's going to legit almost hurt somebody, like to the point that they're not going to even be able to stand up. But man, we have a lot to look forward to. But anyway, so you have all of that battle going on, and then it looked like from the way how things were going out, this Zygarde was going to be able to hold its own weight. And then right when it looked like he was about to finish everybody off, you see the flamethrower, and then voila, Alon appears. So what do y'all two think about all this?
Alon, one of my favorite characters in the anime, but this episode just kind of really showed how manipulative he was being. How much Lysandre was manipulating him. Because like before, we've seen Alon working with Lysandre, but this time we see Alon actually side by side with scientists of the Team Flare, which kind of shows that Alon, of course, he's trying to help Marin, but us as the audience, we know that there's something bigger going on with Lysandre and Team Flare, and I just kind of feel bad for Alon. Tell them when he'll realize that the whole time he was actually on the wrong side.
And you, Noivern?
Well, just like what Espeon was saying that he was being manipulated, I kind of say like this is kind of like same thing, kind of like what the Star Wars original trilogy kind of has, where Alon is basically Darth Vader and Lysandre that is Palpatine. That like he's manipulating to the point where it doesn't matter what he does, if it's just helping Marin, it's Chesby, he's gonna do it. And the fact that like literally he's with the actual grunts from Team Flare, he doesn't suspect that those guys are evil. He just thinks they're actually part of Lysandre's team, and all he knows that he has to capture this Zygarde so that way they can complete the mission and maybe help Chesby, but he doesn't even know if it does entirely. And it's like manipulation all the way.
I feel Alon is kind of similar to Ashnoi, where he gets focused on one thing, like whether it's being the strongest or helping Marin, he gets focused and then kind of doesn't see what's going on around him.
Also true. And so that just went to go ahead and play, because whenever you saw the aftermath of well, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. I won't go there just yet, though. But we had the next big part was just the showdown between Charizard and then Zygarde. And then the way how they had this animation drawn out in this part of the episode, it looked really good to me. I thought it was excellent. So you have Charizard duking it out with some Dragon Claw and Flamethrower and then some other moves though. And then Zygarde was right back at it. And I say the best part whenever they were doing this thing though was when those two collided and you got that big green spear, the one that we saw in the New Year's Eve special. We knew that moment was happening, but we didn't know what was going on within the moment. And then just seeing those two like collide and just having like a big old tug of war, except for it's just a push war. And they were just standing there having that showdown right there. And then like, I was like, really? Charizard X is holding this B against this Zygarde that's enormous and has all this leverage on the ground. And it's just flying there and just got that strength. Charizard X kind of reminds me of mine. But anyway, slams him into the wall. It looks like he's done. And then he comes back out and he slams that thing down into the ground. Pretty good right there. And then if you notice closely, whenever it looked like Zygarde was using Lane's Wrath again and the rocks were shooting up out of the ground, I'm pretty sure they recopied the same animation that it was going through whenever it was facing Groudon like that. And basically got hit from one of the rocks that popped up at the last possible second. But anyway, that Zygarde was about to finish it off with that green glowing probably Lane's Wrath again. And then you had the Team Flare admin, and then they started shooting a poor Bloomy Chan Zygarde down. One came in, the second one came in, and then it was all over after that. So what do y'all two think about the fighting scene?
I have to admire Alon's Charizard. That thing is held up, it lasted against Primal Groudon for a good amount of time. Nearly beat a Zygarde by the looks of it, but we didn't know for sure because Team Flare intervened.
I'm pretty sure that Zygarde had that match from the way that it was being shown, because that Zygarde took some critical hits with the multiple Dragon Claws over and over and over. And it looked like it was holding its own, but go on.
Yeah, but to be able to hold up against a legendary, because in the anime it's shown the legendaries have an unnatural power even without being trained. And then there's the whole Mega Evolution special where he held up against the 9 Mega Evolutions and then beat the Elite Four. So I just feel like that Charizard is going to be a real problem in the future if Alon does end up, siding with Team Flare and fighting against Ash in the big Team Flare versus the main gang fight. I feel like that will be a huge obstacle in their way.
And then you, Noivern?
Yeah, that battle's kind of like foreshadowing of what's going to happen later down the road, except for what Team Flare is going to do, intervening. It's going to, because somewhere down the line, Lysander is going to try to tell Alon to stop battling Ash and go and intervene and try to get Zygarde back into their own control. And it's going to be just like that. And then that's when, and it was kind of foreshadowing in that part of sense. And Zygarde had everybody beat until the point right when you think he was going to get away. That because he was so distracted in battling Charizard that he did not pay attention to what Team Flare was doing, and they just stunned him into the point where he went from 50 back to like his normal cell form, and got easily captured because he couldn't fight back.
Yeah, and I guess whenever you had that weird technology, it's like us trying to do a boxing match with somebody, and then you have someone else pull out like a laser gun or something like that. I mean, it's unnatural, so that was the best way for Charizard X to kind of get a cop out, because it looked like it was even though, but I feel like it would have been one-sided if they continued to draw out the fight. So anyways, Zygarde was defeated, released back all the cells. They got captured by the blue admin, and then basically Team Rocket make a last-minute comeback just to try to see if they can save it, but then they get blown away by the other two Pokemon, and then they just get blasted off like usual. And I kind of felt disappointed how Team Rocket didn't win in that scenario, though, but it is what it is. This is just the start, and they have more stuff planned out forward, though. And then after all that happened, then you had an interesting conversation between Alon and then the other admins. And I'm just curious to know what all that they say, though, but we'll find out in the more upcoming weeks leading up to this thing. So after all that's said and done, then you have Team Rocket, and they're talking back to their boss, basically kind of saying, man, we failed again and all this stuff. But then I'm pretty sure Giovanni's over there like, all right, this is just plan one. All right, we're gonna give him the next time now. And that's pretty much how that ends. And yeah, so what do y'all think about the moments almost leading up to that moment?
I like that Giovanni's being included more, because like in the Black and White series, when we got the more good side of Team Rocket when it was against Team Plasma, I felt like Giovanni was so out of the picture, so it's good to see them bringing involvement more with Team Rocket when the original villain.
And then you, Noivern?
Yeah, like when they just re-talk, after getting losing to Team Flare, and they're talking to Giovanni again about it. It was like at the point where I see like you're going to see more of Team Rocket, and you're going to see like other people coming back. You're going to see Cassidy Bush come back. You're going to see Giovanni. You're going to see like I forget, one of their old like scientists is going to come back, and you're going to get like a Team Flare versus Team Rocket versus the gang. Just to save Kalos from being extinct and maybe the whole world.
Yeah, and that's interesting to know, because when I was watching that and listening to some other stuff, I was like, what happened if Team Rocket actually did win all out? Like Giovanni came back, came to the Kalos region like he came to the Unova region at that one moment. What happened? He came back, and then Team Rocket's like, no, we were really gonna duke it out with Team Flare. And this is just a stretch. It would have been nice to see, but I doubt we're gonna see it though. But if they would have somehow grabbed back all their Pokemon and stuff from their previous regions, pulled back out that Carnivine, Mine Jr., sorry, there ain't no way we're gonna see Arbok and Weezing again, because in those episodes they went out to protect their fellow friends and whatnot. But just see all the regions come back. If Giovanni were to supply them back with them, that would have been interesting. But that's a little bit far fetched. So that's about the end of that. So then at the very tail end of the episode, you basically had you had Poonie-chan trying to call out to his friend, and he got no response back, so he got sad and everything. And then Bonnie could tell it was sad and everything. It looks like the XY game was about to lose. And then this is when things get real interesting. You start to hear that movie music background playing in the background of the episode. I was like, oh shoot, anytime they play that, they usually always have something big in store. We usually used to that only being played for movies for the most part. So the matter of fact, they played that and then ended it with Boon-chan in that cage, and then Lysandre looking down at it, and then saying those Japanese words, in which those Japanese words, they were the same ones that was released in the preview beforehand, before we actually had the what was it, the New Year's Eve special. Okay, y'all, and then what do y'all think about that last scene right there?
The look in Lysandre's eyes, I would say, was almost crazed. Like, we've seen Lysandre before in the Mega Evolution series, but just that look when he was face to face with the blue Poonie-chan, I did not like the look in his eyes.
And then Noivern?
Well, yeah, that scene when you saw Z2 in the cage at the Sanders hideout, in the way he was doing, made it seem like he was ready to do evil. But I'm more concerned about what actually happened with Poonie-chan and Bonnie, because they're all talking. They seem like they were ready to separate or something like that, or leave Poonie-chan behind.
So yeah,
I don't know exactly if that's exactly what happened, or if they were just mentioning it, the fact that Poonie-chan wasn't really comfortable, and they just maybe tried to make it more comfortable. But I don't know exactly what happened, because it ended it before actually letting us know exactly what happened.
So I believe that's all we had to say about the episode. So the episode overall, I thought it was a great one. I still give that one a 10 out of 10. Enough action, a little bit of comedy from Team Rocket, and Team Rocket deserved and got a lot of my respect in that episode. So I ranked it at 10 out of 10. What do y'all two rank it?
Probably an 8.
And then you, Noivern?
Somewhere between 8 to 10, because it was a good episode, great humor, and it was showing that they can move away from the original game from the series to go do something else, and still talk about the actual plot of what's actually being happened. And that's what I kind of like about it, because it's not all about Ash becoming a champion, and it's not all about Serena being the queen. It's multiple things, and what this episode was talking about, that they can show you different things rather than just Ash and Serena getting their goals accomplished.
Yeah, all the true. I mean, you have fans of Team Flare, you have teams of Team Rocket, Ash, Serena, Clement, Bonnie, etc. So yeah, that's what an anime is supposed to do. It's supposed to catch the wide general audience of every single little category that they can improve in. All right, and so now that the episode's over with, I just want to state out my one little theory about Team Flare. Now that, because I wanted to say this in the last discussion, but now that we actually had a Team Flare focused episode, this is when I can actually kind of dig into it a little bit. All right, so Team Flare during the regular XY series had nothing to do with it. They didn't even show up at all. But the way how they did show it was through the Mega Evolutions acts. And within those Mega Evolution acts, you had Act One. That's when Lysandre first appeared. So we knew some Team Flare stuff was going on. We had absolutely no clue about it. And then they build up Alon's resume from the first, the second, the third, the fourth episode. And then the fourth episode, we really got to see that bridge over between that and then the XY&Z series. But in the third episode, they caught that megalith that Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza were all fighting for. And it looked like it naturally kind of belonged to Rayquaza because it kind of fed off that energy that make it so mega evolved. And Primal Kyogre and Primal Groudon kind of fighting over it. And you have Lysandre take it out of nowhere. And then now it's in Collar. That's the first fact one right there. They had this megalith. We don't know what they're going to use it for. Two, whenever you had the very end of the XY series, you had that sundial, and it looked like the sundial was going to play a key thing with Mega Evolution, and that's what Lysandre is kind of all about. So they don't have that in their possession, but I feel like they're going to have some kind of connection with that. That's thing number two. Thing number three, we saw in the previous episode of episode 13, we saw them having that cannon and they blasted that thing out. When they blasted that thing out, it made the plant grow. It made the plants and the vegetation grow crazily on that island. And right after that, you had a plane kind of swarming down to that island, not knowing who or what was actually on that plane. Or that was thing number three. And then thing number four, now we know that they were hunting both of the Punichen cores, and now they got the blue one in its possession. That's thing number four. How is the megalith, the sundial supposedly, that machine that they got on that island, and how whenever they do catch these Punichens or the Zygarde cores, how do all four of those things relate to each other? My biggest question is the megalith. How in the world are they going to do that? So that's my little theory on everything. Because I feel like those are the four biggest things that have to go on, that is going on with Team Flare. So we just got these major parts of the puzzle, but it's really hard to depict and kind of see how each thing is going to form. Like you can kind of see how they can force Zygarde to go to 100% form using the megalith, but I'm not 100% sure if that works if they have to have the blue and the red one to achieve the 100% perfect form. So one of those four pieces of the puzzle, they're not quite fitting in the way that I'm thinking that it should. So that's the big mystery, and that's the thing I'm trying to go through and trying to figure out, because the only Team Flare episodes we had up to this point was episode 1, the introduction. Then you had episode 9, I believe, when they concluded and Punichen returned back to the cave. You had 10 when they came back, and it was like the start of the brand new year. But it was more like just kind of like a recap and Bonnie being sad about Punichen leaving, and then at the end of the episode, they came back. Then you had episode 13, whenever they did that experiment on the island. And now we have 14 that just caught Gloomy Chin. So if you add all of those up, that was about 4 or 5 episodes of Team Flare involvement by themselves, if you don't include the Mega Evolution stuff, which gets like hit and miss. But yeah, I'm just trying to find a way how to depict and trying to figure out their scheme. It's probably the most complicated. After Team Galactic, it was kind of set in stone. Team Rocket was just real random. Aqua and Magno, we knew it had something to do with Kyogre and Groudon. It's kind of obvious. But Team Plasma, it was a bit tricky, but this Team Flare, it is very hard to kind of depict and go off of, because it's almost completely different from the game, so you do not know the exact outcome. But that's all I have to say on my theory, and this is all we have to say about the episode. All right, so that was my long rant on that. So now let's go ahead and dive up into the next preview for the next episode. So this next episode, we have XY&Z episode 15, and this is just strictly filler. So I'll let y'all to dive into it after I read the preview that I have right here. So this is the translation we got from Serena Poke Fire off of Twitter. So here it is. So Clement says, "A dry wilderness and a scorching sun. I can't take it anymore." And he flops down. And then Bonnie says, "Clement, something is there." And then Clement says, "Is that a robot?" And then some random boy says, "You guys, what business do you have with my robot?" And then Ash says, "Robot." Then Bonnie says, "The next Pokemon XYZ episode is," and then the boy says, "Chestnut in a dry field, the robot planting trees." And then Clement says in the end, a little twist up from the usual, he says, "Now everyone Clemente gear on." So, Espeon, what are your thoughts about this episode?
I think it's nice to finally get a Clement focus episode, because I don't think we've had one in a really long time. Even if it is just a filler, it's nice to finally see Clement get some attention, because they've been favoring the other three, but not really him.
And then you, Noivern?
I agree that it's like nice to see Clement get an episode around him, or just get some more character development, because really all you've seen from him was the overly protected brother of Bonnie, and that was really it. But I'm still confused on really not what the episode is really about, because it seems like this should be somewhere around April for around Earth Day. But I'm just trying to like figure out why they put it out in like February.
Filler.
Well, yeah, that filler right before the Serena focus episode with the Tri Pokemon that you're about to have Miette show back up in there, and then you finding this ace trainer that's coming from the family that had a good reputation with Pokemon performers in general. And then you have that, and then immediately after that, then you have the Noivern, the Noibat to Noivern episode. So yeah, it's about the calm before the storm before they hype it up with 2 more episodes with Serena and then Ash. But yeah, it is what it is.
And
so,
you know what?
Go ahead.
You know what I kind of heard about the episode, about the season? It's been hinted that Cynthia is going to make a return.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think that's about all we have for y'all today. So in the comment section down below, we like to hear your personal thoughts, reactions, commentaries, and then even theories, even if you have a little counter theory or agreements or disagreements about my little theory that I kind of spelled out with Team Player and all. We just like to see y'all's comments down in the comment section down below, or any of our Facebook, Twitter, yada 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 accounts. And if you like to subscribe to our channel, then please do so. We greatly appreciate it. And also, if you like to hear more of our discussion, theories, talks, or our original more shipping that we have on multiple channels, I will leave those links down in the description down below. So yeah, I believe that's all we have today, folks. And it was nice to talk to y'all about our theories and thoughts and discussions about this episode. And I'll talk to all y'all again later. All right, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.